Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And to one of the major points that you made, if there is an example of a passenger entity somewhere in the world that is profitable on its own, please, the committee would love to know. So with that, I want to thank you, Chairman Nels, Chairman Graves, Ranking Member Larson, and our two witnesses for being here today. We're here today during an exciting time for Amtrak and, more broadly, intercity passenger rail across the country. For the first time, this mode of transportation has guaranteed funding for multiple years. The value of the certainty is not to be understated. This is akin to the beginning of the interstate highway system, which we continue to support. The bipartisan infrastructure law signed by President Biden in November 2021 provides $22 billion in funding to Amtrak through fiscal year 2026, $16 billion of which is to be invested in the national network, while the remaining $6 billion goes towards infrastructure. And that is along the Northeast Corridor. Another $19 billion is authorized for Amtrak's capital investments nationwide. The bipartisan infrastructure further invests $36 billion in the federal-state partnership for intercity passenger rail programs, with $24 billion allocated explicitly to the Northeast Corridor. Another $7.5 billion in funding is also authorized for this grant program. Amtrak recently submitted grant applications for multiple projects through this program, totaling roughly $9 billion. Together, these projects will assist in increasing rail capacity while reducing service interruptions. Projects like the Gateway program in my home state of New Jersey will improve the passenger experience along the Northeast Corridor by digging a pair of new tunnels under the Hudson River and replacing the Portal Bridge. Both of these choke points are over 100 years old, and maintenance problems here often cause delays for passengers riding Amtrak and New Jersey Transit. Other projects along the Northeast Corridor, such as the Frederick Douglass Tunnel in Baltimore, need restoration. This tunnel is 150 years old, the oldest along the corridor. Water damage and tight curves force Acela trains to slow down to 30 miles an hour, adding precious minutes to trips for travelers across Maryland and the rest of the corridor. Similarly, there is much work to be done on intercity rail projects across the country, including bringing stations into compliance with the Americans with Disabilities Act, refreshing Amtrak's fleet of aging rail cars and locomotives, and replacing older rail bridges like the 100-year-old San Luis Rey River Bridge in San Diego County, California. I look forward to new and improved corridors that can be advanced with this funding. The Federal Rail Administration recently received numerous proposals for the Corridor ID program. This will be the template for passenger rail expansion in the coming years. Established corridors in North Carolina and California will finally have a consistent federal partner. New corridors are ripe for development in Texas, Nevada, and the Gulf Coast. I look forward to the Federal Railroad Administration's project pipeline that will identify the capital projects needed to develop these and other corridors. All of this funding, all of these projects, and all of the benefits that future generations will enjoy would not be possible without our efforts in the 117th Congress when it passed the bipartisan infrastructure law in this chamber and sent it to President Biden for signature. The $100 billion in funding for rail projects included in this monumental law is a game changer for communities nationwide. I look forward to diving into some of the details with our witnesses shortly. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Mr. Payne yields. I now recognize